I'm Kay Ross, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be doing the Booksperience for Chapter 11 of Space, Time, and the Shopkeeper. In Chapter 10, Arona is extremely discombobulated still, because a lot of people have seen her now with Watson in town, but that's probably not the biggest part of it. She doesn't know what is going on, and why is her life out of control? At least her nights. Why is it out of her control? She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like it. Shall we see what happens next? Chapter 11. Decisions. Decisions. Arona woke into a brilliant light. Shockingly brilliant. She couldn't see anything except the light coming from somewhere in front of her. She started panicking and felt around with her hands to see if she was still on her bed. For all she knew, she could be staring down a train in a dark tunnel. Never mind that there was no sound of a train engine or a whistle. Logic eluded her at this hour. She found the bed was indeed beneath her. A bed, at least, but she couldn't prove it was hers. The sound of someone's voice arrested her. It was coming from in front of her, from somewhere in the light. "Arona," it said. That was all. She instantly forgot about the bed. Was she supposed to answer? Or was that a statement? If this was an alien, the one controlling all her night travels, this wasn't the extraterrestrial encounter she had envisioned. The beam of light was neither coming from above her nor pulling her up. There was no green-skinned or big-eyed creature to see, and the voice, it sounded familiar or like she should know it, though she couldn't place it. For some reason, she just couldn't believe the voice belonged to an alien. It sounded too much like the voice of her doting father. Maybe it belonged to the divine Watson's research talked about. Could God really be talking to her? "Arona," the voice said again, sounding gently persistent this time, prompting her that maybe she should answer. "Yes," she said tentatively. "I won't force you to do anything you don't want to do. I just want you to be the fullest I made you to be. I want you to be yourself. Not who you think you are or want to be, but who you truly are." This being was claiming to be her creator. That would definitely be in the divine being category, Arona concluded. But be myself? Arona cringed. She was instantly reminded of her recent conversation with Kunda about human trafficking. Arona had felt helpless and sorry for the countless victims, and she had wished she could do something. "Yes," the divine voice in the light said, as if it could read her thoughts and was affirming her trail of pondering, that her desire to help might just have been the reason her night travels started. The light faded, and she could see she was indeed in her room outlined in the moonlight. So that was it. She had asked to help, and the book display was apparently not enough. Now she'd been given an opportunity to truly help. Darn psyche or conscience or emotions or whatever it was that had bubbled up and betrayed her wanting to help. Arona sighed. And be herself? Clearly herself wanted to help, wear her hair down, and not wear glasses. But what else would it mean? Thinking of more discomfort to come freaked her out a bit. She furrowed her brow, wondering what other changes might be asked of her from herself. Evidently, she was at war with herself, with who God created her to be. A bit disgruntled, stunned, and chagrined, Arona lay back on her bed and stared at the ceiling. Did she want to continue doing the night travels? God didn't say she had to or should, but seemed to be giving her a choice. This was not how she expected the creator of the universe to be. Could she survive being herself, though? Even if she chose to. I mean, so far she'd blundered her way into a black eye, a sprained ankle, and a strained voice. On the other hand, she'd also been capably taken care of by Miss Chang and managed to help a few people. Maybe she could be a lot more careful now that she knew the ramifications of her dreams or night travels would follow her into her waking hours. How did that work anyway? Was she sleepwalking, or was she fully awake when she traveled? How did she get to those places? Why didn't she feel sleep-deprived after a night's work? How was information downloaded to her brain? And how did she become fully clothed in things other than her pajamas? For goodness sake. Arona sighed. She didn't think she could come up with answers to these questions, no matter how hard or long she thought about them. She readjusted the pillow beneath her head. The sun was starting to come up. But should I agree to keep doing this? She pondered again. She'd always done what she thought she was supposed to do. She had always been the good girl, the model child, trying not to rock the boat. But this divine creator said to be my true self and do it if I wanted to. He didn't say I should do it. Would doing this be who she really was? Did she want to do this? Who was she? Who had God made her to be? That was a whole new way to approach things. She knew she wanted to spend more time with Watson and run the other way, the safer way. Could her emotions, fears, and past hurts lead her astray from who she truly was? Arona mulled over her dilemma from this new perspective. She couldn't deny there was also a little, barely perceptible bubble of excitement trying to come up from somewhere deep within her when she thought of really, truly being able to help enslaved people. It resembled the excitement she'd had when she'd discovered the Acalis four-eyed frog, the same feeling that had meant danger and run for the hills ever since. But maybe this was who she genuinely was, and she needed to pay attention to this almost imperceptible excitement bubble. Wearing contacts and her hair down had felt kind of good. She couldn't believe she was thinking this, but maybe this was even more of a chance to become more of herself, who she was deep down, and acknowledge the nicer parts of her that may have gotten shut down. She let out a deep breath. This was heavy thinking for 5 o'clock in the morning. She took a couple more deep breaths and let them out. Finally, she let out an okay that sounded more like a sigh to the divine being who was evidently listening a whole lot more than she ever knew. I'll try it. Some alarm bells were going off in the recesses of her mind, but the tantalizing taste of freedom beckoned stronger. She took one last deep breath as she swung her legs out of bed. "Here we go," she told Clive with a shaky sense of excitement. It was a Saturday morning, and Kunda had weekends off. Jake usually came in to lend a hand in her place. He was one of her parents' former loyal employees, who had officially retired, but would probably not stop helping Arona until he was taken away in a coffin. He loved the shop and had no qualms about spending his weekends dusting all the books and nooks and pointing tourists in the right direction of trusty literary works or local attractions. He was a gem, even if he was getting creakier in the joints and nearly deaf. He was like an uncle, and his presence brought a sense of security and predictability, something she could use about now. Arona was also grateful for the mental distractions of the weekend tourists. She didn't want to think too much about her divine visitation, or the possibility she now might just be classifiable as clinically insane. She was, after all, hearing voices and talking back to them. Somewhere around noon, at the lunchtime lull, James, the UPS man, showed up with a stack of boxes and deposited them by the counter. No matter how many boxes of books she got each week, it still felt a bit like Christmas every time she opened them. Books rarely let her down. Well, there were a few authors who had wasted her time and theirs with a book's existence, but she hardly ever ordered those, and never twice. Arona drew the blade of her box cutter through the tape. As she opened the lid, her heart skipped a beat. It was one of her orders for books on human trafficking. "I guess I might as well make the display anyway." She looked up toward the ceiling. "Even if that wasn't enough for you, I wonder what you'll ask me to do next, or is it what I'll be asking myself to do next?" She felt weird talking to God and looking at the ceiling. Is that where she was supposed to look? Maybe she didn't have to talk out loud. This being had heard her thoughts last time. Oh, she shivered involuntarily. She'd never seriously thought about something or someone being able to listen to all her thoughts. How mortifying and disconcerting. A wisp of light, or a reflection, glanced off the corner of her eye. She turned her head, then looked around in all directions, half expecting to see some invisible, all-hearing being. Nothing. She shook her head in embarrassment. Who was she becoming? Did she now expect a supernatural being to be floating on every dust mote? The bell on the door clanged. Arona jumped and looked up, not sure whether to expect an angel or a tourist. It was neither, but when she saw who was there, she almost dropped her knife. "You're here," slipped out of her mouth before she could stop it. I wasn't. "Look who I found." Watson graciously ignored her bumbling and flashed a smile that lit up the room. He came fully into the shop, with Santos trailing after. Maybe an angel did just walk through the door. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of chapter 11. I hope you have been enjoying this. We'll be right back with the behind the scenes section right after this very quick word from our sponsor. So yes, I'm back again, talking about one of the books that I have published through my company Widge, and this is my mother's book. We have talked about this one before, but I just wanted to point out again The Power of Laments, the life-giving process of grieving and releasing. It's a powerful and short book that I would highly recommend to process through the hard things that maybe you haven't been able to get past in your life, and things that you might be like, why, God? Why did you let that happen? And things that you don't understand and you need to process them. This book can help you through that process. I remember as a child being told that, hearing that a lot of people, when they get angry or when they get hurt, that they run away from God. But if you run to Him, He will help you work through it. And that's what this book's about. It helps you work through with God things that you've gone through that you may not understand, that were just too painful to really get past. Yeah, so I highly recommend running to God and not away from God in the midst of pain. And hopefully this book could help you do that. And I'll put the link below. All right, and now on to Behind the Scenes. Welcome back to Behind the Scenes for Chapter 11. This is one of my dearest chapters because it's very close to my journey and my heart. Arona has finally met the divine personally, which is awesome. Yay! And 2, she is being encouraged. This is kind of the core message of the story. She's being encouraged to be herself and not do the shoulds. It's like, should I do this? Should I do that? And I think often we think about the shoulds out of a place of fear, or at least the way I was asking it was based in fear. Like, okay, what should I do to not be rejected, or to not make God angry with me, or to not make a mistake and not fail? That kind of thing. What should I do? When I asked that in my own life, what should I do? One time, God kind of surprised me with saying, that's not the right question. Ask, who am I? And that's a scary question. I have dealt with the fear of being myself a lot throughout my life. So as you can kind of see, that this book is a processing of my own journey in some ways. Although Arona, I think, is a bit more extreme in her fears. Definitely. I'm a bunch more adventurous. But anyway, beyond that. And I wasn't afraid to instigate things with guys. Okay, that's another story. All right. So back to chapter 11 and Arona. Let's see. Okay. Who am I? Who did God make me to be? What does that mean? And that can be a very scary place because you're taking a risk of putting yourself out there and you might be rejected, or you might go through hard things. You probably will at some point or another. It's kind of life. And then to be yourself, there's so many facets to that. Can be fun. Maybe you've suppressed some area that you thought was too frivolous, but God really gave you that area of your life as a source of joy. Maybe you are afraid of taking a risk to start some new venture of who knows what kind, or to take an adventure, or to just have a difficult conversation with somebody, maybe repeatedly to share your opinions when you've been used to not sharing your opinions. Maybe it's being a good friend to somebody, or maybe it's doing something about human trafficking. It's a place of where you need to press into God even to find out who he made you to be in Jesus. You know, it's what did he put in you? And then finding a way to express that. And sometimes that's very scary. So I would encourage you to press in and ask God to show you who he made you to be so that you can be more of who that is. And it's not like Arona was told, it's not who even you think you might be. It's who you truly are. There's a difference, because sometimes we think we're a certain thing, or we've believed lies that we're certain things, or we have made choices to be certain things. Arona wanted to go run and hide, right? She wanted to just curl up and watch TV, but that wasn't really who she was. That was who she was with layers of fear and hurts and stuff. What is this in my heart that needs to get flushed out? And asking God and finding God in the middle of that, like David did. Maybe she needed my mom's book. Maybe that would have helped her get through this quicker, going through the lament stuff, you know? Anyway, so that's my little musings on this chapter. Arona is in the process of finding out who she really is. And that's a journey. I hope this is inspiring to you. And may you become all that God has created you to be in every aspect and facet. All right. And that is the end of Booksperience for chapter 11. And come back for chapter 12 soon. Bye. Make sure to subscribe, like, turn on notifications, and share this video with all your friends so they can enjoy it too.